Welcome back to Premside Pod, where we talk all things footy. I'm Adam.
Aaron.
A lot to unpack today. A lot to unpack. The Premier League season winding down. Relegation battle close as ever. The championship coming down to the final day. Let's get straight into it. Let's get straight into it.
Let's get straight into it. Everton today, down 2-0 at the half, came back, stormed back. Frank Lampard must have delivered an inspiring speech because they turned it around and they needed the 3 points. They got them, and they're alive. We're going to see Everton in the Premier League again next season. There was no doubt in my mind that they would survive, but I mean, it came down to match week 37.
Came down to match week 37. And I feel like there's a lot of mixed responses to this result. Yes, Everton, they do pull through. Amazing comeback. I don't want to take that away from the team. That shows grit. That shows courage. Credit to Frank Lampard. Credit to the players. That's a great comeback against the very talented Crystal Palace side, by the way. We were just praising them in the past pod. Tyrick Mitchell, Gallagher, that team's class. Patrick Vieira, incredible job with that team. We were even speaking about him for potentially manager of the season. It's a great team. It's a great result for Everton. I don't want to take it away from them. But I think a lot of people are getting very happy. They're very quick to praise Frank Lampard. He's done an amazing job and that Everton's pulled through. But I just want to be frank here. Everton's one of the most historic teams in English football. Pun intended. Everton is one of the most historic teams in English football. They are part of that historic Merseyside derby. That team has so much history. Never mind the class that this team has. They have the likes, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Eric Garcia, Jordan Pickford, Holgate, Dele Alli, Van de Beek, Aaron Gordon. The list goes on. That's a quality team. And when you compare them to the teams that they're so-called in this relegation battle with, and we talk about, Leeds where Calvin Phillips has been gone for the majority of the year. Rafinha struggled for fitness. Patrick Bamford's barely seen the pitch all season. In Burnley, I don't think it's that big of a feat for Everton. It's really not.
No, I mean, look, it's no feat to survive relegation, but it's no disaster either. Everton were on the brink of an absolute disaster. Once you go down, no one knows how long it could take to return. You could lose all your good players. Financially, the club could be pushed into ruin, and then you're left with a declining club, no momentum, and you're not in the top flight anymore. And I think how did they end up in this battle? I don't know, but credit to them for sticking it out. And I mean, a player that has to be mentioned that kind of turned things around today was Dele Alli. I mean,
coming on at the half.
Yeah, barely any game time this year. That's kind of because Everton just don't want to pay the money for him because part of the transfer clause is him getting game time. But I mean, Ali came on and he showed what Dele Alli can do. He didn't score, he didn't assist, but the thing about Dele Alli is his physical prowess and his ability to influence a game as an attacker, apart from scoring goals and getting assists. And we saw that on the free kick on Calvert-Lewin's goal. Dele gave a little nudge, and that freed up some space for Calvert-Lewin to ultimately score the winner. And that's what Dele Alli can do. I have no idea why Nuno was playing him as a box-to-box midfielder. That's not where Dele Alli is meant to play.
Dele Alli, 2015, 2016 Dele Alli that we saw. Love it.
Dele Alli shines ultimately in behind. Yeah, ultimately in behind a second striker.
That's where he's meant to play.
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah, top cameo from Dele. It was great to see, and I hope he can do some good things with his career, but I don't know. I mean, things were just not looking good for him before today.
Definitely, more to come from Dele Alli. Hopefully next season, he can just build off this, performance. But I think, that just adds to my point though, is that this Everton side, they're not your traditional bottom half team. They're not your traditional relegation battle team either. They're a stacked team. The quality is there. They have the finances. Why are they in this position? We'll never know. Clearly, something's happening in the dressing room. Rafa Benitez always been skeptical of him as a manager. He's never really been able to recreate that, success that he had early on at Liverpool. But like, yes, I am happy for the Everton fans. Like, congrats, you guys can breathe. It's incredible, but this isn't something that should be celebrated. This is an expectation. If you talk to me in like September and ask me, "Hey Adam, do you think Everton's going to be in the relegation battle?" I'll say, "Of course not." Ideally I'd put them in, like an 8th, 10th place team, depending on how they play. And that also leads me to the other point I wanted to address. I love Frank Lampard. I grew up on Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard is the lock screen in my iPhone. I'm obsessed with him. I'm a Chelsea fan. As a Chelsea fan, you have to worship Frank Lampard. He's an idol. He's a legend. He's an icon. But when it comes to his managerial skills, he's very questionable at that. We saw what he did at Chelsea. Yes, yes, with the transfer ban, he was able to guide us. But once he did get those high quality players in, we kind of struggled to be very consistent. It took Thomas Tuchel to really, put the puzzle pieces together. And I think the same can be said with him at Everton. Just a quick fact to put out there. When Frank Lampard came into this Everton job to relieve Rafa Benitez of his duties in January, Everton sat in 16th place, 4 points above the relegation zone. Today, Everton is 16th place, 4 points above the relegation zone. Has progress really been made, Jaffe? What do you think?
Look, it's a good point to bring up. The criticism of Lampard's managerial abilities, they make sense, but I think I don't know. I think I credit Lampard for staying up, coming in. This Everton team was in absolute turmoil, and I think one thing about Lampard that we've seen that he does thrive with is developing players' attitudes, developing teamwork within the side, camaraderie. And I think his experience to have was important in this scrap because Everton they were on the brink of disaster almost, as I mentioned, and kind of when that happens, you sometimes maybe don't know how to deal with it. But I don't know if I don't think Lampard is enough to bring this Everton team to the next level, or at least the level above a relegation scrap at that. So I don't know. I'm definitely in agreement with you. Lampard, not nearly the same manager that he is as he was a player. But yeah, I think credit to Everton for kind of not losing their heads and not letting the moment get too big, because I think there definitely was a possibility of, Burnley are in relegation scraps every single year. Everton aren't. Burnley are a side that has experience with it. They know how to beat the top teams. They know how to tough it out. And Everton don't. But I think the last few weeks we kind of did see that win against Chelsea that they had was pivotal. If they didn't have those 3 points today, like who even knows? But I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at it. And there's a lot of criticisms to make, a lot of positives to take as well. But I don't know. There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
And I think another point that needs to be made is like, what is the future of Everton Football Club? Like, will they be this bottom half team that struggles to get by every single season? Or will they go back to, being like a 7th, 8th place team, fighting for those wins?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think 7th, 8th right now, that's way too high.
It's way too high. We look at the teams that are in 7th, 8th place.
Yeah.
Manchester United's hovering around there. Like,
yeah. And I mean, the Premier League is so competitive now. Even
I
mid-table.
was just about to say, this might be the most competitive I've ever seen the league in my life. Ever.
It could be. It could be.
If you look at the teams in like 15th and like 11th place, there's only like 3 or 4 points separating them. It's ridiculous. And then you look at the top half teams. I saw someone saying this online, saying it was like a crazy bold take, and it probably is, but like, just for fun, if you were to put like that PSG team into the Premier League, where do you think they finish? Because honestly, I don't think they'd even be top 3. I think the Prem is just so competitive.
No, I think third. I think third's fair for this season, given Chelsea's struggles as well.
With a front 3 of Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, you're not even like you're third place. Yes, like that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of intangibles.
With a front 3 like that, you would just win the league, but you won't.
Yeah,
And that's ridiculous. I think that's just like, I think that just goes to show how competitive the Premier League really is.
No,
We were
yeah.
saying this at the start of the season, like people were saying that the best three teams in the world were Liverpool, Chelsea, and City. Maybe that's not the case now. Chelsea's since dropped off amid all their like financial struggles, but nonetheless, City and Liverpool, those have to be in like the top three teams in the world. The Prem is just at such a competitive level right now.
No, it is, and I think there's you have your like teams at the top. I remember at the beginning of the season that title race that everyone said was going to be between United, City, Chelsea, Liverpool. United fell off. There's some other teams that are coming in. There's some solid mid-table sides now. Um, Even the relegation sides, I don't even think are that bad. Like I think last season Leeds were solid, and they now find themselves in the thick of this relegation battle with Burnley. I think we should transition to that a little bit. Who do you think will go down between Leeds or Burnley? Leeds currently are in that relegation spot. Their goal differential, not Burnley's is superior, but I don't know. I think Burnley, they have Newcastle, which I don't think is a winnable game for them. And then Leeds play. I think Leeds are going to get a result on this last day. And Burnley, I think they're finally going to go down.
I agree. I think when you're playing a Newcastle team that, by the way, has been such great form. We saw that Newcastle team did to Arsenal 2-0 win and a convincing 2-0 win at that, in the Tyneside in front of the home fans. This Newcastle team is strong. They have a lot to play for under Eddie Howe. Yes, there's probably going to be no European places, but the fact that they want to finish strong at the end of the season, a lot of momentum, by the way, for that Newcastle team. I think Burnley's going to lose, especially, I think Jesse March has done a solid job turning this Leeds team around more or less. Calvin Phillips, he's back in the side. Yes, this isn't Leeds' best campaign, but I just think in terms of like fixtures, Burnley's going to have to go down. I rate this Newcastle team way too highly.
Yeah, Leeds, they're gonna have to take points from Brentford. And they can take points from Brentford for sure.
Definitely.
It's just a matter of Leeds sometimes this season they've lost their heads so early, like that Dan James red card against Chelsea, the Luke Ayling red card. So just
Back
from the
back
very
to back
start,
games, by the way. Back to
yeah,
back games.
yeah, and they need to keep their heads and just get a point and hope Burnley. Go for three, but I think they cannot count on a Burnley loss, but it's likely to happen. So I think if they know that if they go get 1 point, they're going to be staying up in the Premier League.
Definitely. At the opposite ends of the table, let's talk about the title race. And by the way, the title race has really been like a staple of every episode that we've had. And I think that just goes to show how close it really is.
Yeah, and I love it's coming down to the
I
final.
love it. I love it. By the way,
Poetic, it really is.
shout out to West Ham, Jared Bowen at the double. Incredible. Honestly, a bit of a bummer. We didn't even see them win that game. They played absolutely incredible.
Yeah, City should have won that game. After the Mara's penalty miss, but
But what a save. No.
yeah, and
Lucas
just what a game.
And by the way, Lucas Fabianski, I don't know if you guys really know this, but back in his Arsenal days, he's coming clutch. I remember Arsenal had a tie in the Champions League against Bayern, and he just pulled off some miraculous saves at that. So Lucas Fabianski, no stranger to coming up clutch in the big time. But seriously, coming down to the final day, Manchester City, Aston Villa, Liverpool, Wolves. There's a lot of stuff going on online. Gerrard and Coutinho, could they win it for the Reds?
Yeah,
It looks
I gotta say, like
it's
I
it's
don't
a
think
it's a
I
little
don't think
silly.
that
It's a little
headline. I don't
silly to
think that
suggest
headline.
that.
Yeah, and I don't think that headline of Gerrard and Coutinho it has so much validity to it because, look, Villa. The interesting thing is if Grealish goes and wins the league with City, Villa get a nice 15 million pound bonus. And like, is he really going to be enough? Is Coutinho really going to be enough to withstand this City team?
Is
Like, I don't
Danny
think
Ings
so.
really gonna be enough?
Nah. And I think
So,
is Danny Ings really enough? I don't think so. I think
By the way,
City
Ezri
are gonna win it.
Konsa now out for 16 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
It's a pretty depleted Aston Villa team.
yeah.
You know,
Callum Chambers gonna fill in. Not
very, very
enough.
inconsistent. Once I saw that Coutinho was in the side, yes, they had like a good run of results, but they really haven't been all that consistent this year. They're, you know, they're like they're in the second half of the table. Like yes, have they have these shown flashes of brilliance, but to take down Manchester City when it matters most, I think that's a task a little bit too big for them.
Yeah, and I mean they've been so inconsistent. Like Villa are a side that like you just expect to do a little bit more with the personnel that they have, but they haven't turned up. So I don't know. I can't see them beating City here. Unfortunately for Liverpool, who I think could end up losing the title by just the point, which is it's so close. But I feel like City's been kind of in front this whole time.
Definitely, and also I think it'll be crazy as I saw if Liverpool do in fact finish on, those 92 points, which it looks like they might get, only 5 teams have gone on to win the Premier League with more points than that, which just shows, how good Liverpool have played.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate, but then yet again, this City team under Pep, like, when you talk about just, like, dominance over a period of time in the Premier League, 4 out of 5 titles. It's really incredible, it's really incredible, but can Liverpool get the job done against Wolves? Of course, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think that's a no-brainer, but, Aston Villa really face an uphill battle of uphill battles if they wanna take down City. And then yet again, also, what is Villa really playing for at this point? Like, if you just look at motivation on both sides, mentally, the teams are at very different headspaces. One probably just wants to scrape by and not lose 3-0, while the other has the title on the line.
Yeah, and Villa, like, they're I think the best they could do right now is, like, an 11th place finish, worst, a 14th place finish where they are currently sat, but, I mean, that's just terrible, 14th, so I think they're gonna come out any team would, they're gonna play for pride in this one with no actual concrete things to play for, but, yeah, City with the title on the line, I think City 4 or 5-0.
I'm gonna say 3-1, Jacob Ramsey, 88th minute goal. Absolutely love that guy.
What about a Coutinho 90th minute screamer to make it 4-1?
Senior 90th minute screamer
Make
just
it
all
4-1
the
City.
days. I'd
Um,
love I'd love to see it. Would make a good, highlight, but yeah, I think City takes this. I think at the end of the day, City walks away with another Premier League title, much deserved at that. I mean, move on for another season, and what a season it's been, really.
yeah, what a season it's been. The amount of just like talent there is in this Premier League now, it's unbelievable.
Mm.
I'm not sure if like the PFA Player of the Season nominees have come out yet, but I
I
mean there are a few names that they're main names here to talk about.
Mhm.
Salah, Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, like
JWP.
JWP.
We love
I don't think JW.
JWP is a bit of a favorite amongst us, but,
Yeah,
he's just a shout, especially with the Southampton team that's in 15th place. His
yeah.
case isn't that strong, even with the absolute
It's not
world
strong at all, actually. It's probably one of the weaker cases out there.
but his free kicks, though.
Yeah. I how did how did James Ward-Prowse just come up? We just in the beginning of this Premier League Player of the Season talk. I don't know.
Uh,
I don't know how. But let's talk about the main candidates here. Um, Salah. Do we think it's Salah? He's the obvious guy here. But my argument for like why Salah wouldn't win it here is because I mean he scored output wise. Salah's been the most impressive player this season, most goals. But then I think in recent weeks we've seen more like come on the statistic of non-penalty goals with Heung-min Son having 21. Son could go actually nick the Golden Boot from Salah on the last day. So if that is the case, I'm going with Kevin De Bruyne to win Player of the Season. 15 goals, most he's ever scored in the Premier League. He's in a redefined role, kind of as almost like a goal scorer now for City, which is just phenomenal to see. And I think he's just been absolutely phenomenal in the big games. He's turned up whenever it matters most, and that's why I think. I mean, like De Bruyne, City are going to win the league, so that's who I would go with.
I think De Bruyne, he's definitely taken on a new role this season. He's been able, to play in his classic midfield three, but he's also been able to play up top. And credit to that, he's incredible. We all know how good De Bruyne is. But my take for Premier League Player of the Season is a bit of an interesting one. I'm gonna go with João Cancelo. And hear me out on this. Hear me out on this. I think when you talk about like dependence on players, and City's probably not the best team to talk about that for, just
Yeah,
because the sheer depth that they have. But João Cancelo is virtually undroppable for this City team.
yeah,
He can play on the left, he can play on the right. We've seen City go on to absolutely run through teams when De Bruyne is not even in the starting lineup. But João Cancelo always finds himself there. And De Bruyne is an incredible player. The talent speaks for itself. But you're able to replace him to an extent with players like Bernardo Silva, like Rodri, and even up front with the likes of Phil Foden, Gabriel Jesus, Sterling. There are players that can make up for the quality that De Bruyne has. But I think when you talk about João Cancelo and City's ability to just so quickly build up from the back and look at, and we've seen the passes he's been able to dish out all season. I really think he's so integral to that City team, and I think without him in that side, City's a completely different team.
it's a very interesting point. I
Because
think
what would City's backline be without Cancelo?
without Cancelo, I mean, we've seen it a little bit. Cancelo's out,
Zinchenko,
Zinchenko on the left.
Zinchenko and Kyle Walker. That's not nearly as strong as João Cancelo and
No,
Kyle Walker.
it's true, and I think it's definitely a good point because the thing about City's fullbacks is one of them kind of plays more inverted. One of them is Kyle Walker, who is a more defensive player, and Cancelo. He's just been really just unbelievable when he's able to push into a midfield role, push up. His chance creation is phenomenal. But I don't know. I don't know how much a player like as a fullback can impact a game. But I mean, it is such an increasingly important role. Another player like that is a fullback that has to be considered for this player is Trent because Trent, I mean, his chance creation is almost second to none in the league. I think 84 chances he's created this season, 12 assists, 12 or 13. I mean, it's unbelievable that Trent does this as a fullback. And I mean, I have this idea that basically, if you're a fullback and you're slotted into a Liverpool system, you will get assists. But Trent, I think his ability to cross the ball kind of takes Liverpool to that next level, and he offers them that kind of unique route of attack that we don't see through many other teams.
I agree, and I think the point that I make for Cancelo can, very similarly be applied to Trent.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you take Trent out of that Liverpool team, people can't really make up for the quality that he brings. Like, because with Trent's passing, as you said, it is pretty much second to none with those crossfield passes, that constant pinpoint service to the box that Trent provides. No one else in that Liverpool team can really make up for it, and it's definitely a good point to make. But I still lean towards João Cancelo because I do think if
Yeah.
City do end up taking this title, it only just
Yeah,
boosts.
I definitely like the idea of giving it to a City player. De Bruyne, Cancelo, even Rodri as a shout, Bernardo Silva. I think they all the thing about City is they're not a team of individuals. That's why it's hard for this player of the season because it's not blatantly a City player. You have De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Rodri, Mahrez, Foden. Just so many players that fill so many different roles.
And
And
so
I mean,
interchangeable at that.
it's ultimately why they've established this dominance. 4 titles in 5 years, like we always say. It's it's apparent.
Like, what do you, like, I can only imagine what those pep talks are like, with Pep in the locker room, and even in
You're going
managers.
crazy with the puns today. Pep talks. Wow.
But seriously, like, if you're an opposing manager and you're facing Man City, it's not like you can say, "Hey, like, you know, we need to cut down Salah on the flanks. Hey, we need to guard Gabriel Jesus in the box." It's not like that because they have so many different options.
No,
Zabrowski can play sometimes. Gabriel Jesus doesn't even start half the time. Who knows? Maybe it's Foden. Maybe it's Grealish. It's so interchangeable. It's such a fluid team. But you're right, though. That's the thing. They're a collective unit. They're not a team of individuals. But that's just what makes them so exciting. And then also, like when we talk about like the future of the Premier League, what will City look like? I think it can only continue. Like the pieces are still there. The players are in their primes. Foden is still up and coming. Grealish has a lot more to give. Who knows if Gabriel Jesus stays?
Holland coming, like, yeah.
Holland's coming in, complete game changer. Complete game changer. And
Yeah, it like I mean the Prem, it's gonna get better. We'll probably have one more episode to talk about kind of the implications of the last game, but let's end on this topic. A start bench cut. Saka, Kulusevski, Jared Bowen, three right wingers. What would you do here? Let's go. Let's first go who we cut, and then and then who we would start, because ultimately who you'd bench would reveal who you'd start. So let's do that.
agreed. You know, this is a really exciting assortment of players, all young talents emerging in the Premier League. Super excited. Just another reason why I do think it's the why it's the best league in the world, just because the league can constantly produce such high quality young talent. All excellent players, performed incredible for the clubs, as we said, with Bowen especially, really the emergence of him this season. My cut's an interesting one. You're not gonna like this, but it's Kulusevski. And listen, Kulusevski's an incredible player. 8 assists, and he only just got in the Premier League.
Yeah,
It's incredible numbers. It really is. But I just think stacked up to Saka and Bowen, he has to get the cut. What about you?
I'm cutting Bukayo Saka, who I think is an overrated player. I think as a right winger, I don't think that's where he's best suited. I think Saka would work better in a midfield role. But I think the reason I'd cut Saka here is I think there's just an element of class to the way Kulusevski and Bowen attack. And I think Saka doesn't really have that, and he doesn't have that killer instinct in the final third that Kulusevski and Bowen have.
Saka is also the youngest player on this list.
Yeah,
I think that definitely needs to be accounted for. And by the way, like he is a member of the England squad. He was in that Euro squad. Despite that, he did miss his penalty. He was trusted to take that, pivotal spot kick. Gareth Southgate's seen that quality. Clearly, Arteta's seen that quality because he is undroppable for that Arsenal team. He's incredible. He is a catalyst. I think everything that Arsenal produces that is deemed as good. Every single time that Arsenal is in fine form, you find that Saka is in fine form. Like the two really go hand in hand. And the one aspect of his game that I do agree that he probably needs to work on a little bit is his end product. But nonetheless, 11 goals on the season, like he's been putting the ball away. He's undroppable for this Arsenal team. He's so young, he's so gifted on the ball, and I think he's a game changer. Kulusevski's incredible. We've seen what he's done on the right wing for Tottenham, but if you take Kulusevski out of our Tottenham team, you put Lucas Moura in, and not even that, he is a great player, but I've also been critical of him when it comes to his pace. He really isn't the paciest player. And you say Saka is probably not best on the right wing. I think the same case could actually be made for Kulusevski.
yeah,
I don't really know if the right wing even is his strongest position. I'd like to see him almost as like a 10 role
yeah,
behind Harry Kane,
yeah.
almost in the former Dele Alli position. I think that could be really exciting for him.
Maybe not like as much as like in behind a second striker, but just purely in like a creative role. I think he could be brilliant there.
Mhm. But
Yeah,
for me, I'm going to start Jared Bowen, 25, entering the prime of his career. I think at this point, with the showings he's had this season, I think he has to be a lock for the England squad coming up. He's absolutely incredible. What he did against Man City it's just a glimpse of the quality that he has. He's lethal on that West Ham team. The pace, the desire, the grit, the passion he has. I can't praise him enough. I think he's a true Brexit midfielder. He's scrappy. He's not the best looking. He doesn't have the craziest hairdo, but you know what? He gets the job done, and he is a hammer.
yeah.
And I love that. I praise him for
All
that.
right, that's fair. I'm gonna go. So I'll tell you, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna cut Saka, bench Bowen, and start Kulusevski, because if
Start Kulusevski. There's no bias there.
if
There's no
there
bias
is
there.
no bias there. If we're talking about just players, just technical ability, Kulusevski is clear of both of these players in my opinion. Just if you put like Kulusevski in a freer role, um, just the finesse he has with his ability to cut in with his left. I think he's just class. And yeah, that's what I would go with that. It's hard because they're three wingers that have been brilliant this season, um, and they kind of are different players, all three of them. Bowen, a little bit more of like a finisher. Kulusevski, more a provider, creator. Kulusevski, less pace. Saka's more pace. So there's a lot of give and take.
Definitely, all different players, but then yet again, all so critical to their clubs, and I think all of them, are really at the forefront of their clubs' success this season. Me and you, we've both been, me as as a Chelsea fan, what Antonio Conte did for us in the 2016-2017 season is incredible. I've always known that he was the right manager for this job, and I think part of his Spurs turnaround can definitely be attributed to the rise of Kulusevski, bringing him in January. But then yet again, also I think Bowen and is really at the forefront and really critical to the success that West Ham has had this season. And then Saka, an interesting campaign for Arsenal, but let's not forget they lost. What was it, 2-3 of their first games? They're really on a terrible start, and the fact that they are going to finish fifth, it may not be the result that they want, but you know what? It's really not that bad given how far they've come. And I think Saka is critical to the success they've had this season. I hate to bring it up, but that win that they had against my Blues, Saka really right there, feeding Eddie Nketiah. Both incredible players, and you know what? I think that's what it's all about. The Premier League, just so much different talent, so many different teams, so competitive, so much going on. Hey, that's what inspired this podcast, I think. Just the excitement of teams around this league, really.
No, yeah. And I think as it's kind of coming to a close, it's unfortunate, but we got some other stuff coming up soon. But yeah, we'll be back next week.
Stick with us.
Stick with us. We'll be back next week after we do see how this season is going to turn out. But yeah,
Premside Pod signing off.
Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow Premside.
Follow us on our socials above.
Yep. And yeah, have a good one, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.